Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. In today's video we're going to be unmounting this little Aerangis orchid and getting it in a pot. So let's get going. Okay, equipment I'm going to need for this is basically my scissors. Now I normally sterilise my scissors after I've used them so that they're ready for any time I want to pick them up. You never know when you're just going to pick your scissors up and trim a plant, and what you shouldn't do is trim a plant and then go and trim another one without doing this in between, really. Now I use rubbing alcohol. This is 70% rubbing alcohol, basically, readily available on the internet or in some chemists, and I will dunk my scissors in there for an amount of time while we just have a chat about this plant. Now, Aerangis luteoalba variety rhodosticta. I'll put a pop up because that's a mouthful. Good job we got my new teeth in. Comes from Central and Southern African states, basically, so it's continental Africa. It grows on twigs and small branches, most of the time low down, in quite shady areas, often near water, you know, near streams, rivers, things like that, so margins of water, and it's quite shady in most of the places it's found. It's classed as intermediate. You have to bear in mind shady in Central Africa could be classed as medium bright in the UK. Yes? You know, we haven't got a tropical sun directly overhead in the UK, so although this doesn't get the brightest light, it gets reasonable light. I don't keep it in heavy shade as recommended because I'm in the UK. The one thing the write-ups do say on this is it does come from moist areas and does well in terrariums and things like that. Now, this has been on this mount since I got it. I just need to get my scissors out and remind people that dipping something in alcohol doesn't do the killing. What does the killing is the rapid evaporation once it comes out of the dunk. So this now is evaporating rapidly, as alcohol does, and in doing so anything that's living on there will be desiccated, basically. So that's the process, just so that you're aware. A good way would be to flame it, basically. You could do that with or without the alcohol. Some people would recommend wearing gloves for sterilisation purposes. I don't possess any. I don't plan on ever getting any, so I don't do gloves. I like to feel what's going on. Yes, so this can grow into quite a large clump. It produces plantlets off the side, and they grow their own little root system. So it gradually spreads over a flat surface, basically. Or when it's growing on twigs and small branches, it just grows along the twigs and things like that. But it forms clumps. And as you can see here, there are lots of plants here. It's not one, there's many. Now that's how I bought it. It had many plants. It's grown more since I got it, and it's coming into growth now. There are new elements to this starting now. Following that new growth will be some new roots, so this is quite a good time to get on and do this. The one thing I mustn't do is bury the roots in anything that's going to stay wet a long time. Because although this comes from very moist areas, if it grows on twigs and small branches, the chances are its roots are often exposed. They might be in a bit of moss or whatever, but they don't tend to be buried, and certainly not found growing on the ground. So yeah, nice little plant, has wonderful flowers when it does, and it's been on this mount since I got it. I got it from Orchid Man, a private seller in the Netherlands, and I would imagine, looking at the date that I got this, that was probably the last plant I ever got from a seller in the EU prior to Brexit, when my access to those sort of sellers was removed. Right, let's get it off and see what we're dealing with then. It's not wired on. It's been on here since I got it, so the moss that it's in is very old and stale. Some of these roots will be attached to the bark and a lot won't, because they've grown into the surface of the moss. We will lose some roots. It's almost inevitable. I'm desperately trying to do this gently so that the roots come away as best as I can without squeezing them. And there's a nice one there that's actually attached, so we will try and tease it off. My nail, it's probably not going to come off. Oh, it did. So we're getting there. So it's just a matter of seeing where it's attached and seeing if help can be applied to getting a root to detach if it's a root that's holding it without breaking it. And I think these are dead roots holding it on here, so they can just be torn. Right, so we won't be needing that. We look over the plant, and the first thing I want to do is try and tease out as much of this moss as possible, and obviously the raffia that was holding it on. We don't want to bury that. That should just pull out okay. So it's really just a matter of cleaning it up. And this moss is, from the underside, the moss is coming off quite easily. It's not bad at all. As I say, it's not imperative to get every bit of this moss off. If getting a little tiny piece of moss off damages a healthy root, then the moss is better off being left alone, quite honestly. Right, so that's the moss, or in the main, the moss. We've got the raffia off, and then if you look, there's little plants like this are not attached. They are actually separate, so that I can handle them better. Any that are hanging off like that, I think that's going to be the only one. Right, so the only thing left to do really is trim dead roots with care. These are bonsai pruning scissors, stainless steel. They're not what you'd call cheap and cheerful. They do cost a bit because they're stainless steel, but they're pointed, very sharp, and allow you to get right in tight and precisely cut. So I think they're worth the expense personally. I've never found anything that can do this job better. Ordinary scissors just don't seem to hack it. And because these are stainless steel, if they do get a bit blunt, I can sharpen them. I do have a sharpening stone. The old-fashioned way, we sharpen it with a stone. There won't be a huge amount of roots left after this, but there's no point in leaving dead roots, no point at all. So as best as possible, we trim off the dead roots. The only thing we don't, some of these are actually old flower spikes rather than roots, but we do our best. And if it looks like trimming old roots is going to inadvertently or accidentally trim some good roots, then you've done enough. That's the time to stop. It's not too much more, just a little bit down here. These are dead roots. You know, that looks like a dead root there, but above it is alive, and coming out of the end of it is a healthy root. It's just that bit in there looks a bit manky, so we'll just leave that one. It's not worth taking that one off, you know. So I think that'll do for that. better than it was. I can see a few old flower spikes. This has bloomed several times. I got this because as Aerangis go, this is almost a one-off, because most Aerangis are pale coloured. They're night fragrant, so they're pollinated by night flying insects, probably moths and the like. See, now there's hardly any roots left on there, but if you look, there's a little new root coming there. I doubt if that's in focus, it's too close. So this is, like I said, it's coming into growth, which means new roots will grow. So hopefully that will push out more than one root, and it can sit in the pot with the other part of the plant, and it should be okay. Yes, it's a bit unique from the point of view of Aerangis tend to be pale colours. They are normally fragrant at night, and they're anything from pure white through shades of creamy straw colour, very pale yellow, pale greenish colours, in that range. Now this one has pure white flowers, but it has a bright orange centre. It has colour on it. So there we go. Right, I shall stick my scissors back in there so that I can put them away sterile, and I will get a pot and some media and we'll get this in a pot. I'll be back. Okay, so I've got a small flattish pot. I would like a couple of dozen of these, but I just cannot get this size and this shape, so they're precious, the ones I've already got. Now I've put some medium-ish bark in the base to crock the pot. It's not an air cone pot, yes? So when I water this, water is not going to have a fast exit, and there won't be a huge amount of airflow coming in the bottom of the pot because it hasn't got an air cone. But there will be plenty of air maintained at the base of the pot by putting some medium bark in. And then the bark I'm going to use is basically small bark with perlite. And a warning, if you use perlite, do not breathe in the dust. It's dangerous. So what we've got, one little plant, which is in fact 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6, all clumped together, and the roots are tangled. Separating them would do more harm than good. We do have some live roots, not many, but we have some. Now the idea is to get the roots down at a certain level by holding them, and then keep them there by putting the media on top so that they stay there. Now those roots are captured. Now if I need to, I can slightly move the plant, yeah? But before we go too mad, we've got this little tiny one here to get in there, and I'm just going to tuck that in between two other roots, because that will help hold it in place, and hopefully the new roots will get that little plant going. So I've got one root sticking up in the air, which I'm just going to tuck down in, and then we will I always use, as best I can, it doesn't work every time, but I use a dry mix, and I don't water the plant prior to repotting. So the roots, the base of the plant, the pot and the media are dry. As such, when I do this, the media will find all the little gaps in the roots. If anything was wet, it wouldn't find the gaps. It would start sticking to things. It would stick to the edge of the pot, would stick to some of the larger roots and not necessarily get down in between the smaller roots. Now, I think we're okay there. Just a little hole there, a little gap there that needs a little bit. You need to judge when you're potting. When you water, there will be some settlement, so the top of your media will be a little bit lower than it was when you started. I'm expecting that to happen, but not much. So what you don't want is the media level with the edge of the pot, because when you pour your water on, it'll go straight over the sides and take half the media with it. Be like a flood. So we don't do that. We always have a lip, a little gap between the top of the media and the top of the pot. Enough for water to just puddle prior to sinking down through. So that's that one done. I will make up a label for it. If you're going to repot lots and lots of plants at the same time, make sure you keep them separate, especially if they're similar plants, so that you know which one's which when you've finished, and preferably keep them with their labels if you've already got one. Because this is the only Aerangis I've got and the shape of the plant, I don't need a label for it, technically speaking, because it looks like nothing else. So I know what it is, if you see what I mean. So anyway, that's the job done. The only thing left to do now is give that a good watering. And that will get watered with ordinary RO water with an amount of seaweed added. The seaweed extract has hormones and things that can give a plant a bit of a kick, and it has things within it that help a plant get over stress, and settle down. And obviously that's been taken off a mount and put in a pot. That's relatively stressful for the plant. So this will be kept relatively shaded compared with where I would normally keep it. And as I say, it'll get watered with just seaweed extract, no feed as such. Seaweed extract is not technically a fertilizer. So there we go, a little repot. And as I've said, I've revamped kitchen time. Sometimes I won't be doing it for all plants. I certainly won't be trying to do big plants in here. If I zoom back out again, whoops, other way. It's about time I learnt how to work this camera, isn't it? I've only had it goodness knows how many years. If I just tilt it up slightly, above us, whoops, is a cupboard. Yeah, we've got a cupboard here. I can't get plants in underneath that. So there's only small to medium plants I can deal with in the kitchen. But so many people said they missed kitchen time that I decided to bring it back. So there you go. So you've you've got a repotting video in the kitchen, one plant at a time, and a bit of information about the plant. So hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, don't forget to like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and if you have the capabilities, share the video with your friends and your family. Let's spread the word. Okay, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.